Do you love using infusible inks, but you've been wondering if you can layer them? Well, I'm here to tell you you can, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Hey, I'm Sarah. Make sure you stick around to the end so you don't miss any important tips. Now, for this project today, I have this water bottle, and I'm going to be using two different infusible inks. So I have the black one here from Cricut, and then this other brand that I grabbed off of Amazon. I mainly wanted to try out this because it comes in flat squares, where the Cricut one is rolled up, and I just find that to be kind of tricky to lay flat on your cutting mat. So I'm going to go ahead and try this one out today and see how it works. Heading over to Design Space, we are going to start out by grabbing a square shape up here on the left panel. And we're going to take this square shape and then move it down where we can work with it a little bit better. Now I need to make this the size of the water bottle. If you click and drag the corner, it's going to stay a square, but we need a rectangle, so we're going to come up to the top panel and unlock the measurements, and then we can just delete what's here and type in what we need. And I am using a 9 by 5 1/4, so 5.25, and then remembering to lock it again so it doesn't shift around on you and change sizes. We now have the size that will wrap around the water bottle. I'm going to come up here to the top and hit this black square so that I can just change the color. And then this rectangle here will represent the wrap that will be put all the way around the water bottle. So we are going to be cutting out from the middle of this, and you'll see how we do that here in a second. So now heading over to the side here to grab the text box, and then we will move this text box into the rectangle so that I can kind of size it to about where I think I would like it size-wise. And then I'm going to put in Lily's name because that is one of my daughter's names, and this is going to be for her. Then coming up here to the top, I'm going to change the font. Now you see you have different options here, and there's the Cricut fonts, the system fonts, and then the ones you bookmark. And I'm just going to come over here to the system fonts, which is the ones I downloaded, and pick this retro one. This I got off of Creative Fabrica. I'll have it linked down below so you can find it if you would like to also use it. And then I'm going to size this down to what I think I would like it as. Now this is going to go right in the center, so I'll play around with this for a little bit and then kind of tilt it so it's on an angle. Then what I'm going to do is come and highlight both of these, so the rectangle and the name. And once those are clicked, I'm going to come up to Align and drop down to hit Center. That will just move the name to the middle of this rectangle, so I know it's completely centered. Next, what I'm going to do is click on just the name and come up here and hit Offset. Now here you can use this slider and make that offset as big or little as you would like. That just will depend on how much white space you want in between your patterned ink sheets and the black, and then hit Apply. Now as you can see, this is now the offset, and there's these little pieces in here that are still blue. I didn't want those there, so I'm going to come down to the bottom right hand corner and hit Contour. You can just delete these pieces, which means they just won't cut them. You can do it one by one or hit All, hide all, and then pop back out, and now you can see that those are gone. So that's one solid piece behind her name. Clicking off all of those and re-clicking just her name part, I'm going to slide this to the side for a minute. And then you can see that I have the black offset here, still exactly in the center of the blue rectangle. Now what I'm going to do is come up to the corner here and drag and highlight both of these. And then coming down to the bottom right, I'm going to hit the Combine button and hit Subtract. Now you can also slice this, but I like that the Subtract just pulls everything out for you right away. And then I'm going to take her name and slide that back in place. So now you can see that we have two different colors for our infusible inks. So we've got the rectangle, which will be the pattern, and then the black with her name. So we've kind of pieced it together. Now, depending on how much white space you want in between here, you can play around with that offset. Like I said, it's all just kind of whatever your preference is. This process will all be the same. Then we're coming up here to make it, and it will send it over to where we pick our mat. I'm on the Explore Air 2, so I use a mat. Now, with the infusible ink sheets, you have to mirror it like you would any iron-on or HTV, because it will be on backwards when it cuts, and then we'll go down to make it. Coming over here, you choose the infusible transfer ink sheets. If you don't have it bookmarked like I do, you can come over to Browse All Materials, and then you can either scroll all the way down or hit the All Categories and click on the iron-on, and it is listed almost a little bit more than halfway down from the top. And click on that, because that is the one we need, and hit Done. And now it will give you a reminder that it should be mirrored, and you are all set to head over to cut this out. Now, taking out this Cricut infusible ink sheets, these are kind of tricky. Now, I have to tell you, these work fine, but I do not love that they are rolled up in a tube, because that just kind of causes problems when you have to try to lay this flat on your cutting mat, because you also don't want to touch the infusible ink sheets more than you need to. You don't want to rub off any of the ink, and that can get kind of tricky. So I am going to carefully take this. It comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and you also get some butcher paper with the Cricut brand. And carefully placing this on so that I don't touch it, you can see kind of the wrinkles and creases from where it had been rolled up, and I'm not crazy about that. It does cause problems every now and then, but I am going to just use this unopened roll of transfer tape to flatten this down. I don't have a brayer tool necessarily, but this seems to always work just fine for me. You use what you have. And then I'm going to cut this out. And with these infusible ink sheets, you do want the ink part up, okay? So that's why it's kind of like the iron-on. The carrier sheet is on the bottom. Sometimes what I like to do is I cut out a ton of vinyl yesterday, so I'm just cleaning my blade with a ball of tinfoil, which I just keep in this little holder to the side. And then I'll just blow off the little pieces of tinfoil if there are any. I find that cleaning my blade in between projects just gives me a much better cut every time, especially if it's something that's like a glitter vinyl or cardstock. It helps. It doesn't sharpen your blade, but it definitely will clean it. And now after that is done, I will take it out of the machine, and then I like to take my X-Acto knife and just cut around what I need for my design, and then I have the sheet still ready to go for the next project. Now you could use the scissors for this. I just find that using it this way works just fine. Carefully peeling this off so that you don't touch it too much. We are going to take this off after we flip it upside down, and then where it didn't cut all the way through with the X-Acto knife, I'll just go back over that and cut those little pieces off. It's also much easier to work with this once it's upside down, so having that initial cut line there really helps out. Now we are ready to cut out the next part of this wrap, and this is the brand that I grabbed off of Amazon. So you can see it's flat, which is what I really like, and I'm just going to be peeling this open. This is the first time I am trying this, so I will have this stuff linked down below so you guys can find what I'm using here. But as you can see, because it is flat, this is easier to get out and get ready to use. Like, I didn't have to pull it out of a box and unroll it. And there are 10 sheets in here. I think I paid like $12.99 for this pack. And the infusible ink from Cricut can be anywhere from $10 to $15 per box, and you only get 2 sheets in there. So this is definitely way better of a deal. And I just like how this is super easy to get down onto my mat. I'm not messing around touching this ink at all. And I'm already liking this stuff better, so we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now, and then at the same time I will grab Lily's name and get that peeled apart. If you're getting any value out of this today, go ahead and hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Now with infusible ink sheets, you don't necessarily weed this stuff, but you crack it. So as you can see, I'm kind of just wiggling this around, and if you could hear it, it would be making a little bit of a cracking noise. And then you just peel the paper away from the carrier sheet. So because I'm putting the name inside of the other one, I'm going to be pulling away the extra parts here and leaving her name on. And sometimes this is pretty easy. These letters are pretty big, but if it gets really kind of small and thin, I would probably just use the pens and markers that you can get for this, but this one was pretty easy to kind of pull apart. And just keep working your way around. Now it is okay if there are some extra little pieces that are left behind. As you can kind of see, maybe between the L and the Y, there's that little white piece of paper. That's okay as long as none of the black coloring is there. Now I pulled this off the mat the same way I did the other one, and I'm just going to peel this stuff off of here from the edges that I don't need. And then I tried to crack this and it didn't really crack like the other one did, but as you can see, it's pulling apart where it needs to. And this stuff peeled off so easy. You guys, I was super impressed. Now I know it was one big chunk, but this stuff is a lot thinner than the Cricut brand, and I think that made it a lot easier to pull out of the middle of this paper. So now here comes our layering part. Obviously you can't just put this right on there because that carrier sheet would be in the way. So I'm going to use this tiny little tweezers and just carefully lift this off of the carrier sheet. Now I'm not actually like pinching the vinyl, I'm just using the bottom part to kind of loosen it. And then I'm going to peel it off, and again, trying not to touch it very much. If you have a hard time doing that, you could always wear gloves. And I'm just going to tack these down into place. I'm not going to press down on them too hard yet, but I'm just going to stick them down where they need to be, inside of where that offset cut out of the patterned ink sheet. And then once that is all down and it's where you want it to be, go ahead and take that roll of vinyl again and flatten it down so it's tight up against that carrier sheet. Now I have here all the things I'm using. Like I said, I have a water bottle, which I got off of ProWorld, and I have some heat safe tape, my parchment paper, and this silicone wrap that I use on the cup. And here I'm just going to clean this off with a lint roller. You could also use rubbing alcohol, but I find that this worked just fine for this one. You just want to make sure that it's clean from any debris or dust or fingerprints before you put your ink on here. Now, grabbing this wrap, I'm going to lay it down flat and then take my water bottle and kind of place it where I want that name in the middle. Just kind of eyeballing it here. And then I am going to wrap it around. And because that carrier sheet is sticky, it will kind of hold it in place for now. When you are wrapping things like this, you do want to be careful that you don't overlap the infusible ink sheets on top of the other side where that carrier sheet is sticking down. As you can see where I'm kind of peeling that up from the top of that one, and then from this one that I'm doing now, I'm pulling that away from that paper. Now you could just cut off some of these end strips of that carrier sheet because we are using the heat safe tape, so maybe next time I would trim those paper liners or those carrier sheets off of the edges so they're just out of the way. And then I'm going to wrap this on as tight as I possibly can. And then I am going to take my heat safe tape and tape this down like I go a little bit crazy on the tape here, so I'm just going to work my way through this, and I'm going to tape the sides down and then the top and the bottom all the way around the bottle. As you can see here, the tape is now all the way around the top and the bottom as well. I don't know why my camera didn't record that, but there it is. I just wanted you to see how much I have this all taped down. And then I went ahead and cut out a bunch of cardstock. I realized that this silicone wrap that I have was not really the right size for this water bottle. It's made for coffee mugs, but it works fine. It just needed to be a little more snug and tight around this water bottle. So I think in the end I had about 6 layers of cardstock wrapped around here, and then I could fit this silicone wrap on here tight enough. You do want it snug so that that transfer sheet is as tight up against that as possible. Now heading over to my Ninja, I am using my air fryer for this. I know some people say, why not just buy a mug press? Well, I didn't use my air fryer ever for cooking, so I decided to try it and see if it worked, and it worked great for this kind of stuff. So I pressed the air crisp button and set it to 350 for 5 minutes. Now I am going to open this up when it is ready and just place this mug right inside of my air fryer. Now you could always go to a secondhand store and see if you can find an old air fryer that somebody donated because they probably never used it either, and it would be much cheaper than a mug press. At about 2.5 minutes, I'm going to pop this open and just flip this over, just because you maybe don't want it laying on the same side the whole time. I have seen some people who haven't turned it and it just kind of burns right through the wrap and the paper, leaving weird brown marks. So I just always go ahead and flip it halfway through. Now that this is done, I am going to turn it off and take out the mug. Using my tongs because it is super hot. Keep in mind, please, though, if you do use something like a convection oven or an air fryer, once you use that for crafting, that's all you should use it for. Do not go cooking chicken nuggets for your kids in this thing afterwards. The infusible inks do give off fumes, and you should really be doing this in a well-ventilated room, but there you go. Now after this was cooled off to the touch, I came back and popped this right open and started to peel off all of these layers of cardstock. And I do think I had like 6 layers altogether. Some of them peeled off in one big chunk. Now, looking at this, it is still really secure, and I'm gonna fly through peeling all of this tape off because, you guys, I did go a little bit crazy on the tape. I wanted to make sure that this transfer sheets were down super tight on this cup. And as you can see, just by pulling the top carrier sheet off, that black came out great, and I am shocked at how bright and vibrant this other brand off of Amazon is. Now there is a little seam here showing. I probably should have made it a little bit bigger than 9 inches for this, but overall this turned out amazing. I cannot believe how bright these colors are, and to think I did this all in my air fryer too. No fancy mug presses here for me. But overall, this was an easy way to layer different colors, and I say you should go try it. Go see what you can come up with and how many different layers you can do when you piece your infusible inks together, and you'll be amazed with what you can come up with. If you're looking for other ideas on how to use these infusible ink sheets, go ahead and watch this next video.